Hello, brain and behavior students. This is Dr. Fisher. I wanted to put together this video for you to give you an idea of how the Achieve platform that we'll be using in this course is organized and some best practices for how to use it. So first of all, how to access Achieve. It's pretty simple. This is the student view of Canvas. This is exactly what you're going to see. All you need to do is click this Macmillan Learning link here, and then it'll pull up a window. You'll see at the top of it, it'll say Achieve. Click on Achieve, and it will pull up the course view. Now, this is one of the course home views, and I'm going to talk about the different views in a second. My preference is to organize it viewing by course content. The reason is that I've organized this to correspond to the syllabus. So if you look at the course syllabus, all of these things will correspond to it. For example, if we look at Exam 1 material, in Exam 1, there's Chapters 1, Chapters 2, Chapters 3. If we click on Chapter 1, those are the Chapter 1 assignments. And we'll come back to that in a second. There's another way to organize this, and this is by resource type. This is showing more based on due dates. I don't really like this because I don't assign due dates to the reading. So the readings become separate from the learning curve exercises. So it doesn't really give you a good workflow, and it doesn't correspond very well to the syllabus. So I really recommend that you view by course content. So now we're viewing by course content. I'm going to go to the Exam 1 material. We start with Chapter 1, and this is going to pull up the Chapter 1 assignments. So in Chapter 1, and you can see this on the syllabus, there are two sections of the textbook that are assigned, Section 1.1 and Section 1.2. So I'm going to click here on Section 1.2, and you'll see it's going to pull up the ebook. Now in this left-hand column here, which I can get rid of, and I will in a second, this shows you all of the different sections of the ebook, whether they're assigned or not. There's a lot of sections that I did not assign, but all of those are available to you should you choose to read them. I'm just going to get rid of this if it lets me. I guess in my student view it doesn't let me. But here is Section 1.2. This is one of the assignments. So one of the things I like about this book, it's very well organized and it's very well written. There are some learning objectives, and these are always good to look at before you start reading. It kind of sets your mind to what's going to come. And then there's very well organized, very well written material. There's some nice sort of sidebars. There are links to different things. For example, these comparative focus. That's this thing here about chimps and speaking. And again, this is really for your own interest. If there are certain definitions that might be a little bit more challenging, there's links. So it's a very well organized book. So a couple of things I want to say about this. First, you see on the bottom, this is your navigation window. 1.1, that's also assigned, but 1.3 is not assigned. So if you just keep clicking through these, you might go to sections that are not assigned. Again, look at the syllabus, only sections 1.1 and 1.2 are assigned. When you get to the end of the page, you'll see there's these review questions. You can answer these, and it'll show you the answer. Now, these questions do not give you any points. It's just a nice way to help review what you read the material. Now, here is my first piece of advice, and it might sound a little bit contradictory, but you have to wait till the end of the video so I can bring all of this full circle and it'll make sense. The first time you read the textbook, I don't want you to labor through it. And by laboring through it, I don't want you to go through it and really study every little piece and try to memorize every little definition or memorize every specific point. Because really, that's a lot of time wasted, and it's going to take you a long time to get through the material. And it won't really help your learning anyway. So the first time you go through it, read for familiarity. Don't try to labor over things. Don't try to stop, but just try to keep going and just familiarize yourself with the material. So a section like this, I would suggest should take you no more than 10 minutes to go through. And again, don't try to memorize, just try to familiarize yourself with the material. So now this is section 1.2. That's the last one that's assigned for chapter 1. I'm done with it. So I'm going to go back home, and now I'm going to complete my first learning curve assignment. This is where you're going to get the points in the class. So to complete learning curve, you just click on the link and it'll pull up a learning curve menu. Now, this is what you're going to see the first time you get into Learning Curve. And there's a couple of things about this I want to point out. First, at the top, there's some frequently asked questions. I would just click on it and look at it so you can get a general idea. If you ever have a question, now you know what's in there. Some Learning Curve tips. These are things that I will talk about as we proceed through this video, but you can learn more about these here. There's a couple of other things. Here are target score progress. This is really important. Every learning curve has a target score. In this case, it's 300. You're going to answer questions to reach this target score. Your strategy is to use best practice to reach this target score as quickly as possible. And if you're using best practice, it should take you about 21 minutes. And I'm going to tell you what best practice is as we proceed through. The second thing we'll come back to, the personalized study plan. Right now, there's nothing in here, but it's going to generate your accuracy in answering questions from those 2 assigned sections of the book. So once we complete Learning Curve, there will be some data here, and the data will help me understand if there's any of these sections that I need to focus more of my effort on. So we'll come back to that. But let's begin our activity, and we're going to get our first question. So here's my first question. It's worth 15 points. The question is, a minimally conscious state is a condition in which a person, okay, let's see if I know that. So person is aware and awake, but cannot move because of complete paralysis. That's a tough word to say. Has a wound to the brain resulting from a blow to the head, is alive but unaware and unable to communicate, or can display some rudimentary behavior such as smiling, but is otherwise not conscious. Now, you may or may not know that. I happen to know it, so I'm going to make my choice. I'm going to submit my answer, and yay. So what happens? I get 15 points. You see this nice green color, which is reinforcing, part of our psychology. And now it lets me go to the next question. So the next question, a group of organisms that can breed among themselves is called a, Well, let's just say I'm not quite sure I know the answer to that. It's worth 15 points. So what I'm going to do is say, okay, give me a hint. Now watch what happens when I click get a hint. My question value has now dropped in half. And here's my hint. The organisms may look different, but can have offspring together. That did not help at all. And what you're going to generally find is that these hints do not help at all. So did that hint help? Not really, but I kind of, let's say class, I'm going to guess, oops. Now look what happens when I guessed. My question value went from 8 to 3. Every time you guess and you're wrong, you can keep guessing, but the question value is going to drop. So I'm going to choose species and yay, but I only get 3 points out of the 15. So a couple things we've learned here. One, if you get hints, they're generally useless and you're decreasing your number of points. Here's a 25-point question. I don't want to decrease those number of points. I want to earn all 25. It gets me to 300 faster. Second, if I guess, that question value is going to go down as well. So if you just go through this and guess, it's going to take you a long time and you're not going to learn anything because all you're doing is you're guessing. And you'll eventually hit 300. It will take you a lot of questions to get there, but you're not going to learn anything. As a general rule of thumb, you really don't want to take more than 20 questions to reach a target score. And as you get good at the best practice, it should take you less than that. So what is the best practice? So let's just say, let's see here. This question, animals' ability to produce blank behavior depend on the brain's potential for physical or chemical change, that is, on the brain's blank. That's a toughie. I don't want to show the answer because I get no points. Let's just show the answer. Learned in plasticity. Okay, I kind of knew that, but no, that didn't really help me, but maybe it helped me learn. I got 0 points. So let's get the next question. The biological constructs we now know as genes were first discovered by, God, I didn't remember that either. I don't want to get a hint because it's 15 points. I want all of them. I don't want to show the answer because I get no points. What's this here? Read the ebook page on this topic, no penalty. So if I click on this, what it does now is it takes me to the ebook section where this material was covered. Now, if you remember, back when we were talking about the reading, I said read for familiarity, not for detail. Now, what you're going to do is read for detail, but you're going to read a very small section of the book for detail. It turns out this is a much more effective way to learn material. Your brain likes processing information in small, meaningful chunks. This is what this is breaking the material down into, a small, meaningful chunk. So now I have a particular focus in which how I'm going to approach the reading. The focus is the biological construct genes, who first discovered genes. So let's read this. And now I'm reading it carefully. And I know Wallace and Darwin didn't really discover genes. So we're going to read it very closely. Let's see. Understood the basis of a monk, Gregor Mendel. Through experience, Mendel deduced that heritable factors, which you now call genes, it is Mendel. Now I've done that because I've read it carefully. My brain is processing a small chunk of information carefully. And so now I know Mendel discovered genes. I choose Mendel, I submit my answer, and yay, I get all of the points. Okay? So this is the best practice in how to use Learning Curve. If you know the answer, choose it, you'll get full points. If you don't know the answer, then always choose read the ebook page on the topic. Now you're going to read the book in a small, meaningful chunk as you search for the answer. You choose that answer, you get full point value. Full point value takes you closer to your target score, and it will actually be faster than just guessing. And it'll also be better for your learning because you're actually processing the material in the textbook instead of just randomly guessing. So here I'm just going to do one last question. Whether an animal relies on inherited or learned behaviors is linked to, let's just say that. And because I'm the professor, I knew that. Brag, brag, brag. So let's go back to the study plan. And now what I've done is I've earned 58 points. And now we see data populated in here. And it's what it's telling me is in section 1.1 of the book, I answered all of the questions correctly. In the second section of the book, not so good. So now if I'm thinking about studying and this is my data, what would I look and prepare at the most? Well, if you ever want to be better at something, you always practice your strengths, but you need to identify your weaknesses and work on your weaknesses. This is telling you what your weakness is. My weakness is theories of brain and behavior. And so it's suggesting read these sections, which are basically all of the sections. Now this gets more accurate as you go through Learning Curve, but this is a good way to identify where you need more work, and this is where you should put in your study time. Now, I hope all of this will help you use the material. I hope you use the best practice. It's a little bit awkward at first, but the more you do it, the better you get at it. And if you keep using the best practice throughout the semester, in a couple of weeks, you'll be very good at it. You should finish these exercises with the readings included in about 30 minutes. And remember, these are all due before lecture. So it says due September or August 29th. This is August 29th before lecture. The whole idea is by going through these exercises, you now have some familiarity with the material that we will cover in lecture. This will allow you to take better notes within lecture. Taking good notes is one of the secrets to academic success. If you have any questions about anything I've talked about in this video, please do not hesitate to reach out, and I look forward to seeing you in class.